Okay. You can do a roll call, please.
Andy Buffington.
Present on the phone.
Larry Smith.
Present.
Ellen Hagan.
Present.
Rob Rotter.
Here.
Mike Casper.
Here.
Tom Lampy.
Here.
Jason Leonard.
Grab a chair.
Carol Lund Smith. David Ness. Denise Pavlik.
Present on the phone.
Marty Smith.
Present.
Mike Harvey. Jeff Swearingen. Patrick Updike.
Present.
Bob Von Wolfrat. We have a quorum.
Hey, thank you. We could do an introduction of board members, starting with the phone on Andy Buffington.
Yeah, Andy Buffington with Winnebago and Hancock County Emergency Management Communications, representing community centers.
Denise Pavlik, Scott Emergency Communications Center, Scott County, representing communication centers.
Anybody else? Okay, starting down with
Larry Smith with Emergency Management.
Mike Harvey, Iowa DOT.
Ellen Hagan, representing volunteer firefighters.
Carol Lund Smith, Iowa Law Enforcement Academy.
Jeff Swearingen, Iowa Department of Natural Resources.
Tom Lampy, DPS.
Chris Myers on the SWIC.
Patrick Updike, Iowa Department of Corrections.
Marty Smith, Iowa Department of Public Health.
Rob Rotter, Iowa County Sheriff.
Mike Casper, Lynn County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and welcome. We've got a fairly large agenda, but I should be able to zip through it here pretty quickly. Looking for...
Peter at the department.
Okay. I'm looking for the approval of today's agenda with a motion, please. Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the meeting minutes. Need a motion from the July 12th meeting.
Larry Smith moves.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Swick, you're up.
Mr. Chair. Just a bit of a reminder from last month. I was recently appointed to the P25 Steering Committee in an official capacity for the National Council of SWICs. So I do have input now on the LMR standards development process from start to finish, both at the board level with TIA and TR8, and now with regards to NCSWIC. So I will probably be reaching out for more feedback to board members and other stakeholders across the state to see if there's any needs that need to be met within those array of standards, just to make sure that everything that comes down from TIA and TR8 and the P25 Steering Committee benefits us as much as it can. On the topic of standards, I did vote on several the past month. They cover things like location services, that are built into radios now, interoperability and compliance assessment program testing, noise and interference parameters for some radios, various port number assignments for radios as well, and then of course updates and improvements to how things like antenna loss are measured. So those things will benefit us significantly as they get rolled up into standards and incorporated into product. Jumping over to the National Emergency Communications Plan. That work is ongoing. We're having weekly calls with that now. I'm happy to report as well that a significant effort is being made to unify various aspects of the emergency communications ecosystem, including incorporating broadband data. In addition to that, a lot of emphasis is being placed on rural areas and their needs, which is reassuring. This is not just a technology type of report, but it also includes things like trainings that were held yesterday, And I think we're making a lot of positive steps with regards to that. Moving on, one other project that I've been working on with the federal partnership for interoperability or interoperable communications has been a website that's built into HISN, which is a Homeland Security website that's protected and access controlled for information sharing with regards to P25 standards. The initial sort of pilot for that is almost ready. And in the end, it's envisioned that it will be a repository for information top to bottom on P25 for end users to submit questions and receive answers, for manufacturers to post things like technical service bulletins. The overall vision for that is that that type of information exchange will help end users describe problems if they're having any, sharing information amongst the user base as well, and then also for manufacturers to have that open dialogue with customers and users so that problems can be addressed and features can be added. The initial launch will revolve around the ISSI, but there's a lot of discussion about expanding it to everything else, especially encryption. So look for that over the next couple of months. It's nearly complete. Right now, they're having debates on things like nomenclature for file uploads. So we're basically done with the nuts and bolts assembly part. That paper from the encryption subcommittee is being drafted. My hope is that that'll be ready for socializing next month so that we can take it to the October TIA and TR8 meetings in San Antonio that I'll be attending. The goal there is to get it socialized with TR8 and FPIC so that our needs can be heard regarding encryption. RIC standards, those are in progress still. RIC 1 has completed a work with the transport standard, and that is up for approval today. That work will actually dovetail nicely into a travel standard as well, and that'll probably be up in a couple of months. The interstate side of it is being socialized with neighboring states, so expect some more movement on that in the future. The interstate interoperability standard is a little bit more of a heavier lift, so that's going to take a little bit more time. Finally, with regards to some outside entities and standards that resulted from the RICS work, the National Weather Service has been contacted about using Isicsb. Those discussions are ongoing, and they have originated directly from the meetings within RICS 2 through 6. That's basically all I have at this point, Mr. Chair. I will pass it back to you.
Any questions? Okay, I need the mic. Come up, please. Thank you.
Good morning. At the 911 Council meeting, we had a presentation from Zetron. That is the vendor that was selected to do the shared services call handling platform. Might be worthwhile to review that if you are interested, if you represent a PSAP or interact with a PSAP. That'll be posted on the Council's YouTube page. And just to bring you up to speed on that, there are currently 16 PSAPs interested in that sharing of technology. That's up 3 from last month. The final training approval, at least of the calendar year, was also approved today. Basically, there was a lot of interest in the funding last meeting. We tabled one and then put a moratorium on it until January. So the final approval was passed today, and now basically there's a moratorium until January. There's not going to be much funding there when that moratorium is lifted in January anyway. So the funding that's been approved for training is probably what you're going to have for the year, but it's a significant amount of training at this point. Wanted to mention that the Marshalltown PSAP, after the tornado, was down for 3 weeks. And that was really a combination of factors. You saw, I'm sure, the Raycom facility that was the damage that was sustained, but really it was the aerial fiber into that PSAP. First, Alliant had to replace the power poles, and then Windstream and ICN had to work to get that fiber restored. DPS answered those calls for those 3 weeks, and I know they wanted to pass along their gratitude. I'm very thankful that DPS took those calls for 3 weeks, but really the system, the next-gen system, worked the way it was designed, whereas every PSAP has the potential to be a backup for another PSAP. So, again, thank you. Then 2 other items that you might see in the news more from the federal level on 911. There was a 911 Fee Integrity Act introduced to Congress that really is tasking the FCC to fully define what 911 surcharge can be used for. And that's important because when there are federal 911 grants, which I'm going to talk about next, the FCC can declare if there's been a diversion or not, and then you're no longer eligible for those grants. So until from the advent of the diversion policy from the FCC, they've never really defined what is a diversion, what isn't a diversion, and that's caused some issues with some states saying this is legal in our state. How can you declare it as a diversion? But then the FCC declares it as a diversion anyway. So just putting some language about what's allowed, what's not allowed, is the intent behind that federal act that you might hear about. The other thing is the federal 911 grants are a step closer to becoming a reality. The states should be able to apply for those hopefully within the next month or two. They're just waiting for one more piece of bureaucratic red tape to be able to offer those formally. We'll be a strong candidate to receive that grant funding. Basically, any next-gen 911 type of upgrade or project is eligible. The state or tribes are the only eligible applicants. So we'll be applying on behalf of the entire state, and we'll basically be looking to offset some of the costs involved with our virtual consolidation project, the network merging, and the shared services. Any questions?
With the network merging with Zetron, is it my understanding that my cost would go away, or do I still have costs?
The call handling, really for both aspects. When the network is merged, you would, for a local PSAP, they would no longer have their wireline costs from a CenturyLink or a Windstream.
Sure.
We would absorb those costs. And then also for the Zetron with the call handling system, we would pay for the annual and the install. The only caveat is if a PSAP wants to run their admin lines through the call handling platform, the state can't pay for admin line connectivity, but that's at a much cheaper rate as well. And they'd be happy to talk with you about what that would cost, but it is a possibility to do either way. And then if there's additional functionality that we contracted, emergency medical dispatch, CAD, logging recorder, we would cost share those.
Okay. So my maintenance fee, if they pay
Will
every
go
year,
away.
will go away.
Correct. And I know you asked that question last month. I still haven't seen those come in.
I sent it to them.
No problem.
They're slow to get it
No problem.
back to me.
Just wanted to give you that feedback.
Yep, you bet.
Thanks.
Okay, the Chair Buffington, you're on the phone?
Yes.
Go ahead with your report, please.
Thank you. The user group committee had a conference call on July 20th. We reviewed 4 applications, as well as we again talked about the Regional Interoperable Committee progress. It continues to stay relatively stagnant. Some of those, the more active recs, obviously, as you heard in the SWIX report, are looking at things as far as transportation talk groups and then interstate communications between our surrounding states. And again, the 4 applications will be, they're in the new business portion of it. One of the things that I did want to bring up today that was not discussed this month's meeting, but in our June meeting, was the recommendation by the UGC to approve and look toward the Des Moines metro area requesting metro interoperable talk groups that are basically, it's just drilled down a little bit further. Essentially, it's somewhat like a regional, only in the fact that it's going to be in the metro area. If Rob Dennard, I hear that he's in the room, and if he would be willing to speak briefly on it, I'd love to defer to him.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Rob Dennard from the City of West Des Moines. For those of you who aren't aware, the West Des Moines metropolitan area established a Metro Interop Committee. Under the logic of this board and the regionals, we felt like the population that we serve between the 3 PSAPs here in the metro, about 531,000 people last time I looked, about 17% of the state's population. Having this Metro Interop Committee to address between our 3 communication centers communication concerns, one of the things that has come out of that is the idea of formation of Metro Interop talk groups. So of course you're all aware that there's statewide interop talk groups, regional interop talk groups. We needed something at a sub-regional level. And so we've approached the UGC. The UGC, I believe, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, has approved the concept of a sub-regional or metro. And so I think that's what's in front of the board today.
Tell me the difference. Why do you need that?
So just the volume that I believe there's 18 counties in Region 1 that for competing for only, I think, 9 talk groups, that the volume of people that are here, the volume of incidents, planned events, all that sort of thing, because of the huge population here, I think we need more talk groups here in the region. And why not establish a sub-region, the metro, so that we're not affecting as far away as Carroll County, or I forget how far east it goes or how far north it goes. Certainly if it grows beyond the metro, we'll graduate up to the regionals, we can graduate up to the statewides, but if it's a metro-only event or incident, let's have some sub-regional, if you will, metro talk groups.
Isn't some of that dictated by where the boundaries are now with the statewide?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Isn't some of this decision based on where the existing boundaries are for the regional talk groups that's kind of motivating some of this?
Yes, very much so. So my example of Carroll being, I think, the furthest west county in Region 1, what's going on here in the metro really doesn't affect Carroll usually until we get that chase that heads out I-80. The other problem is West Des Moines actually in 4 counties. Polk, Dallas, Warren, and Madison. Madison's actually in Region 4. So just that idea of, and there'll always be somebody that borders another region, but we serve a big population here, and having additional interop talk groups that we can share amongst us would be good.
So who would dictate what channel you're going to use, whether a metro or a statewide or a regional? Who's going to call that?
If it involves those 3 in the metro, I see them starting in the metro. And as an incident grows and expands, they can grow and expand up that interoperability continuum to regional ones when regional partners need to get involved, graduate up to the statewide when the statewide resources get involved.
Have other states done this, where they split it, one more piece of pie versus their state and regional?
I don't know. I can give you a real world example too of a year ago this month when West Des Moines was hosting the Solheim Cup golf tournament. We had, I think, 5 of the regionals consumed just for that weekend for interoperability for a planned event that immediately half of the regional interop talk groups were used, that we wouldn't have had to use regionals, we could have used metros for that event, leaving the regionals open for that much broader 18 county region that we wouldn't have to consume those. And we foresee, the discussion's been, we've talked about it in technology and operations and the UGC, that there could be other areas that need this. The Quad Cities may need this, or the 380 corridor, or North Central Iowa, or some sort of sub-regional set of talk groups that don't pull from that big region, but for whatever reason, they need something that's less than a region. And the metro seemed like a good place to start.
So is there policy that would be developed that meshes with the policies and protocols that we're actively passing now? Is inserted into one of those, or is this going to be a local policy? Because you're going to use the Isicsb core, obviously. So it has to avoid confusion.
Yeah, who's going to be the owner of those?
Yeah, that's been a bit tricky. We approached it, and the letter, it really comes from the request from this Metro Interop Committee. And it's not exclusive, it's really inclusive, that we're not saying that nobody outside the Des Moines, West Des Moines, Polk County arena cannot have these. We're the primary users of them. If Dallas County wants them, if Jasper County wants them, Story, Warren, whoever, okay, but it's really meant for the 3 PSAPs right here. Yes, we need to develop the rules on them.
So I would ask that if you work with one of the committees on probably operations, develop something that works that's not confusing as to how it's going to be used.
Sure.
Well, wouldn't this operate under West Des Moines or whoever's MOU as an Isicsb user? Because then wouldn't you be able to just say, this is part of my fleet map?
No, because we don't want to own them. Because then if there are talk groups, I got to get Des Moines' permission, Polk County's permission, everyone's got to have permission to use those. It really is the approach of this Metro Interop Committee to say, these are the metros, this is what we're all agreeing to, not just a West Des Moines agreement or a Des Moines agreement or a Polk County agreement, it's
Well,
collectively.
then shouldn't they sign up as a user and then develop their own?
Yes, but certainly anyone wanting to access those talk groups will have to be a user of Isicsb.
Right.
Done. This is at that stage above that, in our minds, between a region and between a user, much like the regionals, that there's no one that created the regionals, the board did that.
Right.
So we're just asking a sub-regional unit to be created. We're going to be the metro here, that it's not tied to an individual agency.
So then it would be the responsibility of the Isicsb board to create that. Is that what you're
Which
saying?
is why we're here in front of you today.
Okay.
All I would say, and if anybody has got another opinion, is that you work with our committees to get it up through to where we can take a look at. Operations has been looking at it, and then we could pass it, or.
We did.
So
It's been
who are
through
the
those.
three PSAPs?
Des Moines, Polk County, Westcom.
State PSAP involved in that committee?
They're not on the committee, no.
Any reason why?
I don't know why.
Okay.
Would you like to be?
Yes, it would be.
That seems like another day, another topic.
Yeah. I was just curious, we all work together here, so.
I think, and this is just Rob's opinion at this point, there were enough issues between Des Moines, Polk County, and Westcom that we wanted to work out and get a handle on ourselves first.
Okay.
That before we opened it up, and we're not trying to be exclusive by any means.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure, the boots on the ground, they all work together. I just want to make sure that it's fluid. Okay. Aren't you glad you came up here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Rob. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion at the UGC level regarding these sub-regional interop talk groups, and I would concur with what Rob said, that there is a time and a place and a need for something like this, or whether it's a planned event or an unforeseen. And I think it would be at the board level to develop these, much like we have the regional and statewide talk groups. Because the reality, like what Rob had indicated, is that right now, Region 1, you have a call channel, you have 5 tactical channels, and then the have the potential to be encrypted, and the final being law only. So that does limit a large-scale event. So something like this would, in my opinion, that would provide more resources for one of the largest populated areas, or the largest populated area in the state of Iowa, as well as just essentially making things a little bit simpler as someone's developing ICS 205. So with that, I guess that's kind of why we brought this today, just for the fact that we don't really know exactly how we need to move forward. We can socialize with ops if you'd like, and governance if we need to, or at least the standards committee to see where it fits and how it fits. But that is something that we'd like to move forward on. With that, to end my report, we talked a little bit about possibly providing assistance for some consulate grants if and when they become available, as far as how to apply and things like that. That's going to be at our next meeting. So with that, I have nothing further in my report. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Andy. Okay, we'll move on to finance, and I believe Ellen is presenting today.
The monthly net expenditures during July for the Interop and Broadband Communication Fund was $15,217. The July ending balance was $269,595. Monthly expenditures during July for Isicsb 2.0 were $18,137. Of that amount, $14,510 were federal expenditures. The remaining federal amount available from the grant is $169,674. Chris Meyer's travel request for a trip to San Antonio regarding the TIA, TR9, and P25 steering committee meetings in October was approved by the Finance Committee on Tuesday. Wally Walzer's travel request for a trip to Tennessee regarding a public safety interoperability functional exercise was approved last month in the Finance Committee. Both Chris Meyer's and Wally Walzer's travel requests are on the agenda later in the meeting. Does the board have any questions regarding the activities or financial position of the Interoperable and Broadband Communication Fund or the Isicsb 2.0 activity?
Was not Wally's approved last month?
Yeah, and that's what we said, that it was,
Board meeting? Oh, at the board level?
well, we couldn't remember. That's why we went this way.
Pretty sure it was.
Okay.
And as far as Chris's goes, his has already been approved up to a cap of 15,000 several meetings ago, so I don't think we need to
Okay.
approve those here at
Then
the end.
let's delete them from that agenda.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks. Okay, we'll move on to governance. Are you taking care of that, Dave? Okay.
You bet. We met on the 6th, Monday, and reviewed, had slight edits to 5 new standards that'll be, we'll be requesting approval under new business. Any questions?
Look like, thank you. Move on to operations. You taking care of that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can cover that. So in Vice Chair Leonard's absence, I can kind of cover this, and I think, Marty, you were on the phone call too, so feel free to chime in. We discussed at length what to do with some grant monies that may be coming our way to assist PSAPs with connecting to the Isicsb platform via control station consolettes and other things. There's roughly about $450,000 that might be coming our way to assist with that. We've been working on trying to figure out perhaps the best way to distribute those funds. The Operations Committee more or less said that it would be good to try to expand that money as much as possible to try to get it into as many different PSAPs and Public Safety Communications Center as we can. It probably will not cover the entire cost of the installation, but we may be able to provide a stipend for that as well. Work is ongoing to actually work with the UGC on approvals of PSAPs in advance to make the grant things smoother. I see Blake DeRucci's in the background there from Homeland Security. I see him shaking his head, so he doesn't have anything to necessarily add either. So that's basically the report from operations.
Okay. I think we're back to Chair Hagan. Outreach.
The Outreach Committee continues to pass on all the information that we receive to as many people as we can find.
Okay. Is Sean here today? Yes, he is.
Thank you, Chair and Board. So we've been working on the outreach, getting that scheduled. As you know, we have the RIC 6 coming up August 22nd, I believe. That's going to be in Anamosa. And then we have RIC 5 we're working on diligently. It will be, tentatively, the location is somewhere in Fairfield, Iowa. I've been trying diligently to make sure that we were choosing places as centrally located in each region as possible. I took your feedback and worked with both AT&T and Motorola to help make sure that they could get a vendor somewhere in there to help give the presentations for the hands-on portion. Beyond that, we've been doing a lot of logistics here for the fair, making sure everything's ready for the fair, making website updates. I know that there's been some pain about the new, Chris, you're going to have to help me. It's not the matrix, it's the participation.
Yep, participation plan.
Participation plan, thank you. Making sure that that is more easily available. I was recently we've just had a discussion about improving the process, so the join process will be enhanced probably in the next month or so to allow for the participation plan to be included as a requirement when joining. So that will no longer be pushed off. It will be immediately a part of when you do your LOI and you do your MOA. You will also start your work on your participation plan immediately. We've been working on doing some social media stuff, making sure that we're pushing things out. We recently sent out an email. I worked with Chris and Chair Pavlik to make sure we sent out the new trainings coming up. If you're not getting it, please let me know. We just did a scrub of our contact list, obviously with sheriffs, police chiefs, fire chiefs, always in constant flux. We're trying to make sure we're making that maintained and cleaning the list. So please just check. Remember the buddy system. If there's someone not getting it, please forward it on, because that's the best way to get the message out. If our emails get hit by one of the blocks, more than likely yours won't. Other than that, I'll take any questions.
What time does it start? In Anamosa, what's the starting time?
10 a.m.
And it goes all day?
10 till, well, we put down 10 till 4, I believe. Typically, it may let out a little early, but I'm not making any promises. I'd rather you be pleasantly surprised rather than unpleasantly kept over. So I will stick to my guns, 10 to 4.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to training. Chair Pavlik, are you still on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So we had our last conference call. I was not able to be in attendance. However, Chris did step in my place. But what was really discussed, we've been talking about all of the upcoming trainings, and I just really want to get that information out so everybody understands what we're doing and what's going on. The first trainings that are coming up are all related to the Isicsb system. It is essentially, so everyone understands, the training is meant to be a train the trainer for PSAP personnel. Whoever in your PSAP can take that information and go back to their individual PSAPs and kind of also teach their individuals, whoever that person may be or set of people. It's probably good to have a decision maker there as well if possible. That would be great. I'm going to cover topics on basically what is the Isicsb system, how is it managed, governed, what does the system do, what its capabilities are, all of the features in the system, the functionality, and then how it's going to affect them in their day-to-day jobs and of the people on the street. So that's the basic nutshell of the class. It is a one-day class. It's offered 2 days in every region. So you can attend, either one or the other. You don't have to attend both. It is going to start in Region 1 on September 10th. And again, you could do the 10th or the 11th. It's at the ICN room in Des Moines. Region 2 is actually September 13th and 14th in Mason City, Post 8. Region 3 is September 12th and 13th in Ida Grove Rec Center. Region 4 is September 11th and 12th, Council Bluffs, Post 3. Region 5 is September 13th and 14th, and that's at Ottumwa PD, Wapello County Sheriff's Office. And then Region 6 is the 11th and the 12th of September, and it's at the Cedar Rapids Fire Department. And again, we just want to make sure we're thanking all of the places that are hosting and everybody who is going to be doing the training and assisting with this. It's a very big deal for everybody. So just want to make sure that everybody's getting those notices. I know that Sean worked really hard to get those out. It is an online sign up, and he's been pushing that information out to everybody that I've contacted, and I've been telling everybody about it as well. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Next set of trainings that we have coming up, we were talking about doing the ICS 300 courses, and we do have 2 of them. The first one is going to be October 3rd through the 5th, and that will take place at Cedar Rapids Fire Department in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. There are some questions about certificates and prerequisites. So we kind of worked through that issue. If anybody has any questions with regard to what is listed and what they have, they can certainly contact me directly, and I can clear up those questions for them. The class runs from 8 to 5. It is a 3-day class, so you have to attend all 3 days in order to get your certificates. The second, and currently we have 7 people already registered in that class, which is pretty good. The second ICS 300 course is going to take place November 14th through the 16th, again 8 to 5. You have to attend all 3 days, and that's at Mason City Post 8. So prerequisites are the same. We did also try and get into the schedule the Incident Tactical Dispatcher Training and INTD course. We were able to secure a location and some dates. We haven't actually had our scoping call yet, but it's right as of right now. It looks like it's going to be October 22nd through the 26th, and from 8 to 5, and that information should be coming out shortly. I think that we had one other course that we're probably looking at potentially in December. It would be an OXCOM course. We're currently working with Jim Lundstead and Chris and I, and we're going to see if we can kind of get that into the schedule for TA requests for this year. So I think that's all I have as far as training. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
This is Joe McCarville on the phone. Could you repeat the second location of the ICS 300 course? The phone cut out a little bit, and I was interested in that class.
November 14th through the 16th, and that's at Mason City Post 8.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Denise.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll go on to technology. Patrick.
Keep it real short. The Technology Committee continues to work on some of the standards that are out there and coming down the line. Sook Myers has set up go-to-meeting sessions for us, and we spend every minute of those meetings just weeding through all of the wording and trying to figure out what needs to stay and what needs to go. So that's what we've been doing for the last month. That's the end of the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay, we'll move on to other reports. Start off with the information sharing of our board members, if anybody has anything they'd like to share. Go ahead.
I would like to pass on a tremendous thank you to agencies that assisted recently with the tornadoes we had in Marshalltown, Pella, and Bondurant. We were at Marshalltown with one of our resource trailers, and the outpouring of support to assist with operations there was very nice to see. A lot of vendors and manufacturers chipped in resources as well to help make sure that things continued to roll smoothly. And I do want to thank everybody who helped out with those various operations.
Thanks, Chris. I do have one thing I'd like to share, like always. I got notified last week that our circuits that feed our towers, and one example would be LEA and DPS, there's one company that provides a service is going to announce a sunset date on those. What that means is we would either have to rebuild that circuit, use a microwave shot, or use fiber because the Ethernet and the T1 will be gone. The following week I get, and also within that same information, the rates were going to be raised on some other sites. The next day I get another notice, or 2 days later, that another section of circuits that we are going to raise about $5,000 a year. So you can see the writing on the wall here. We've been talking about this for quite a while, about the age of the circuits, the technology of the circuits, the cost of the circuits. So at some point, we're going to be in a pickle here, but fortunately, we have a new system on the horizon here that we can rely on for the PSAP level to get that new LEA in place, so to speak, with the new system. So the control stations or the consolettes are some connectivity to the state system to replace that LEA circuits and to move forward and sunset LEA is going to have to start sooner than later. So what I would like to do, since there's a tremendous amount of PSAPs that are affected and that we all do work together and rely on that frequency, we need to work together with the state and the locals, and I'd like to form a committee to do that, to get us to that point so the information is fully available to all the PSAPs and the locals that use it. So we're all on the same page on when we do decide to make that change. And then we'll get all the information out as to why we have to do it and all the costs, which is continuing to rise. And I think we're at an era where the technology is going to just move on. And fortunately, we do have a backup, a good backup. And so that's the status on that. So I can take any questions, but I would like to meet afterwards with some of the chairs to form a sub-working committee on the LEA situation and circuits to get that information out as best we can. Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure this out. Is this an attempt to eliminate LEA and DPS-based towers all at once, or is this an attempt to get control stations up and running that will patch, I don't want to say patch, that will communicate directly in and be interfaced with the Isicsb system?
I wouldn't call it an attempt. I would call it reality. Something's got to change. We don't have to do it. We don't have to flip the switch immediately, but because I do not have a sunset date yet from that company, okay? But there will be one, and it's just going to continue to either get more expensive or they're going to say we're not going to support it anymore.
No, and I understand it. I'm just saying the tower stands there now, and so you cut the T1 off.
That we're not going to cut anything off until we're confident that all the PSAPs have connectivity somehow,
Right,
and
and
it's
that
either
would
one or
be
the other.
through a control station or.
Yeah, that's really the option. If you're not connected to the core on Isicsb with a hard line, you have to have a control station and grab it over the air.
But DPS would then transition their dispatch center location. They could still talk on that LEA or DPS through a control station at their dispatch location, right? Even though the T1 may not exist anymore.
Correct, but there would be really no need to.
Right.
Right. When we convert in November, whenever this project is finished and we're confident that it works, DPS base will be gone. We're going to use the system. It's like some of the people that have joined for operationals, we're going to use it. LEA will stay there, but we have to have this committee. We have to have involvement in a working group to study how we're going to do this, because I'm not turning anything off until the locals have input on it, and when and we're going to do that, and how we're going to do that, and how it's going to roll out. But I have to get you the facts of all the things that unintended consequences here, because there's no way that's a very important frequency. It's been around since the 70s, and we rely on it.
Right.
So that's why I want the local involvement.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Yes. I wanted to kind of talk also about IDPH, Iowa Department of Public Health, is requested to be a user, and you'll vote on that. Like the board will vote on that later today. But I wanted to just pass on the importance of what we call the Iowa Health Alert Radio Network. Currently, Raycom is the provider for our statewide radio network. And in the events in June was it June or when was the tornado? July, my Lord, yes. With that tornado, Marshalltown Hospital was able to use the Iowa Health Alert Radio Network to evacuate 28 patients out of their hospital. The reliability of the current system that IDPH sits on was well proven because they were able to communicate with the other hospitals. So I have great hopes that the Isicsb system will be able to provide that high level of service. And even though we're not, quote, public safety, public health and hospitals are a major player in events in Iowa. And I look forward to the vote to become part of the Isicsb system. But it's a very important radio network, and that's why we've requested so many statewide frequencies. It allows those hospitals and public health departments to reach out, and they manage that evacuation. So Raycom and Marshalltown did an outstanding job by using that system. So that's all I have to say.
Great news. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to the project manager. Is Melvin here? There he is.
Good morning. We'll start as soon as the video shows up. All right. As always, very active time as we continue looking at all the sites. I want to show you site by site or region by region. A lot of activity. When you look at Region 1, only one site has not been started in Region 1, which is a Calhoun site. That requires a tower mod, so we're going through the paperwork to get that done. Every other site in Region 1 is either completed or waiting for power. For example, we have this one in Warren County, Hooper site is completed. We're waiting for the electrical power. Once we have electrical power, there's a lot of things we can do. And then the Hardin site, which is in the process right now, the foundations are in. The tower build has started. I looked at photos this morning, and the 3 bottom legs are actually stacked. So that process is going to continue through this week and next week. So we expect that tower to be completed by the end of next week. So 21 out of 25 sites are powered. We look at Region 2, and we have 11 sites. All of the sites are either done or in process. Out of 11 sites, 9 of them are completed. The 10th one, which is a Fort Dodge site, KTIN Fort Dodge, which is an IPTV site, is completed with all the civil. We're just working right now on hanging the antennas on the tower. Chickasaw up here, which is a lease site, the construction process has started. Region 2, all of the sites are built and they are now powered. The only one that hasn't started is Rock Rapids up here. This is the one that's gotten a little bit complicated. We got some quotes for the replacement and for the build out. We didn't like what we got, so we asked for more quotes from different vendors, and so we're still working on that one. I was expecting to make a decision last month, but we decided to get more quotes so that we can do more of a competitive bid to build that site. That's an IPTV site. Region 3, again, every site is built and powered. Region 4, the majority of the sites are built. Again, Davis down here and Muscatine down here, these are the 2 lease sites. So the construction is in process. Davis actually has already dropped in the shelter, the generator, and the tank. So there's some additional things to get done, but we're expecting to get power there pretty soon. Muscatine started a little bit later, but all the flat work is in progress right now. And then Keosauqua is the other IPTV site. We've done the civil work at the site. I believe the power is still not available, but it's going to be available pretty soon. I didn't get an update in the last 3 days for Keo, so it's possible that's actually power there now. All of this is very dynamic. It changes every day. And then Region 6, again, all the sites are built and powered with the exception of Dubuque and Zewingo. Dubuque is another lease site, and that process has started already. And then Zewingo, we thought we had power, and it turned out that things got a little bit complicated with the power company. So we backed that one out. It was red. We turned it back to green until we resolve the issue. We still expect to have power there by next week. So overall, when you look at the numbers, again, how many sites have not started in the statewide system? 2. One is a lease site, and the other one is an IPTV site, because these are 2 complicated sites that take a little bit longer. We have 6 sites that are active and 4 sites that are done, but we're waiting for power to be delivered. So overall, we've made a lot of progress, a lot of activity going on. Here's a statewide view, kind of helps put that in perspective. So in this case, red is good. The green dots, again, the green dots are sites that are done but don't have power yet. And I believe this one up here actually has power when I was talking with somebody this morning, but I don't have confirmation. So here's a four lease sites that are being built, are active right now. So again, the only 2 that haven't started is this one, Calhoun, which is a lease site, and this one, which is Rock Rapids. Calhoun is a microwave only site, so there is no effect when it comes to the coverage. It's basically a microwave relay. Here's a snapshot of what coverage looks like today with the modified 700 megahertz plan. Remember, we had tuned most of the sites already, and then we found out we had some interference issues with one of the adjacent states. So we stopped and we went back, redid the channel plan. Once we did the channel plan, we're working with the state PM, Craig Allen, to get concurrence from all the adjacent states. We believe we had a pretty good plan, so I didn't want to sit and wait for that. So I started, as resources became available, I started to put them to start retuning the sites. As of now, the only feedback we got was from Nebraska. We did have an issue with Nebraska. So we developed a new channel plan, a 3rd channel plan, but it only affects 2 of our sites. So we have 2 sites that we have to retune on our side, on the Iowa side, which is a win-win because that way we don't affect them and we absorb the hit, which is only 2 sites. So the impact will be minimum. So all I need is the final concurrence. We received concurrence from all but 2, Illinois and Wisconsin. And we're expecting to get that, if not by the end of this week, next week. At that point, we can unleash the rest of them and keep on the retuning process. What I'm showing here is 2 colors. The green, again, this is what's up in the air right now. The green represents mobile coverage, and the orange represents portable coverage on street. All right, so I had mentioned last time that we were, if we wanted to, we could actually start doing coverage testing in selected areas. So what I'm showing here in this map are the counties which we could start doing coverage testing today if we wanted to. But again, we want to make sure that we get the letter of concurrences from everybody before we start that process. So in here I have these 5 counties. So the number in red, what that represents are the sites that are important to us to be able to test that county. So for example, Lynn County there's coverage that's provided by 4 sites that surround Lynn County. In Benton, there's 6 sites. So what that means is that we got to make sure that those sites are up and operational. So when we do our coverage testing, our tool is actually listening for those 6 sites. So if Benton needs 6, but there's only 5, we don't want to start, because then there's one site, even though we might be able to achieve the requirement, we don't want to do that because we know that there's a total of 6 sites that provide coverage for that county. So we want to make sure that all those 6 sites are retuned and ready to go. So right now, Jasper has 6, Powercheck has 6, Iowa has 5, Benton 6, and Lynn 4. So a little number in the bottom here, for example, in Benton, that represents the number of test tiles. 1,273 for Benton, 1,276 for Lynn, 1,042 for Iowa, and so on. That represents what that number we figured we could do each county in about 3 days. If it's just one person with one coverage tool. If we had, in this example, if we had 5 teams, which we're expecting 10 to 12, we can do all these 5 in less than a week. And then over here in the middle is the capital area, again, which is ready for testing as well. The difference in capital area versus the rest of the counties is that the coverage requirement for all the counties in the state is for mobile coverage. The capital area is for portable on street. Given the smaller area, the coverage tiles or test tiles for the capital area are a lot smaller, about 100 meters each test tile. Whereas for county level, it's I think it's 3/4 of a mile. So in this example, Polk County would be covered for mobile, but we also have to do the portable for the capital area. So there's 2 sets of tests that we would do in Polk County, one that focuses on the county requirement and one that focuses on the capital area requirement. Everything else is county requirement. So again, about 3 to 3.5 days per county. So what we're looking at doing is we'll probably like to start in the capital area first because it's a lot smaller. So we can get multiple individuals involved so everybody can see, again, what we did, what the results are and whatnot, so that we can prime everybody so that when we start with the counties, then we can start with multiple groups at the same time. So summary, it's getting repetitive, build. We have 6 sites in active construction and 1 that's going to start in the very near future, which is at Calhoun 1. It's all about the microwave right now. So the sites are up. We got to go through the retuning process, but the antennas are up and whatnot. So right now, the focus is on making sure that the paths are properly aligned. So we're adding more teams to that so we can get even faster as we move on in order to keep the timeline that I'm looking for. We're starting the process and we're continuing the process of integration for the DPS dispatch centers, 4 centers throughout the state, which includes the support of all the conventional VHF stuff that's out there. Also, this last month, we rerouted resources for the deployment of the STR and provided the portable radios to support that event. And also, we reallocated resources to make sure that the Marshall site was up and operational to be used if anybody needed it. So once the STR was there, we had a team of folks working on Marshall. Once Marshall came up, then the STR was removed. And right now, we just continue to re-optimize all the sites with the 700 megahertz, the new 700 megahertz channel plan, so that we can mitigate any interference issues with adjacent states. Right now, it looks very positive. It's taken a while, but I think after many calls and conversations, I think this last one will be it. So I'm expecting that to be resolved by next week. That being the case, again, the capital area is something that we're going to try to jump on quickly. We've been working with DPS to get the what I call the golden test radios set aside. These will be mobiles that will be on trays that will be calibrated and optimized and tagged so that everybody knows that these are for coverage purposes and certified to be optimized. That's all I had. Any questions?
Alan, when did you put the first tower up?
Sorry?
When did you put the first tower up when you started this project? Trying to get a timeline of when we started to where we're at today.
So, wow. I think, well, the first piece was all the paperwork, so it felt like in 16, we did the Lucas building, which was not a tower per se, but it was an install in a radio shop. And then after that, I'd say about the third quarter of 16 is when we started putting up towers.
Okay.
Do you have an estimate of when the testing will begin in Polk County? Ballpark for planning purposes.
So for Polk County, we have one site that we're waiting for, and it was Hooper and Warren County, which we're expecting power. So as soon as we get power to that, I think, and Story County, we're powering that up as well. So it's not that far. I would say probably within 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, what part of Nebraska was giving you the heartburn on concurrence?
Nebraska makes use of a data system, and some of that spills into the Iowa side as well. On the Iowa side, some of the frequencies that were being used were from the state allocated pool. But we're working with all the stakeholders, and some of that stuff is going to be going away anyway. It's going to be decommissioned. So what we did was we didn't want to force people to leave. So the approach we took was, let's see what we can do internally so that we minimize the effect on them, which basically resulted in 2 of our sites having to be re-optimized.
Is that the Glenwood and Underwood?
No, it's, I believe Harrison is one of them, and I think Carroll's site is the other one. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, move on, AT&T. FirstNet.
Good morning. Tim Pierce from FirstNet.gov. Just 2 announcements or items for note for everyone today. So one, we have a new podcast. It's called Public Safety First, available where you can get your podcasts. And so that'll be a conversation with Dave Buchanan, who's the Director of Public Safety Advocacy, and a bunch of people from around the country. There's currently 2 episodes up, which are fairly short, but I know they just recorded another one at APCO this week. So that'll be coming, so it could be an item of interest. The other thing is that If you recall, last month I talked about how, we're leveraging the AT&T network, right, as we come online with the FirstNet Core, and then we built out Band 14. And so we now have 41 devices that are certified on the FirstNet Core. That basically means you can get a FirstNet SIM, it'll say FirstNet on your phone. And so that's 26 smartphones, 8 tablets, 3 rugged handhelds, 1 hotspot, 2 in-vehicle routers, and 1 modem. And so that will continue to increase over time. But it's exciting to have that many that are certified now and will function and operate with success. Unfortunately, Kyle couldn't be here today as he had a family emergency. However, my colleague Dustin from External Affairs was able to make it over for a little bit and can talk a little bit about a deployment update for y'all.
Thank you, Tim.
Good morning. Is that slide up?
Yep.
Okay. Again, I'm pitch hitting for Kyle this morning, but did want to give you a quick update on progress so far. We have 211 sites in progress, 72 sites on air already since the opt-in, which was last summer. And obviously you can see the recent areas covered. I guess one question I had for Tom and Chris is when we say Columbus Junction, we get a new site there. What is the process to let the local officials know that there's a FirstNet site going up where it's on live? Or if it's something that we need to do, I mean, I want to talk about that because I think that's one next step that I want to take control of.
I think you can go through the board, or the sheriff maybe help you
Okay.
with the sheriff's association or the city.
Yeah, because I just want to get because there's a lot of sites coming by the end of the year too. And I just want to get a process internally, make sure it's all right with you.
Previously, I don't think we got notice of when sites were turned online, so that information would be helpful.
That's great.
Well, I get those emails, so if you don't mind, as soon as they go live, I'll send those to you. And then on our regular monthly update, we'll talk about it. And then, but I did talk to you, I talked to you last week. Next month, Andy Sackrider, our network guy, will give you more of an in-depth, kind of like your previous, you had the maps and all those.
Good.
We'll get another one of those. And if it's all right, like every 3 to 4 months, we'll do a full-blown in-depth with a bunch of maps. As new sites go on, I'll email you and Chris. But I do want to make sure that all the local folks know when a site goes up. To give you an example, my in-laws live up at Cresco. Last 5 years, my AT&T phone, I got 0 service. And I was up there 2 weeks ago and I got 4 bars because Ridgeway has a new tower. So it's really changing the rural area coverage, so in a good way.
Yeah, because this is significant, 211.
In progress. Yeah, we have 72 on air so far. So the build out is going great. I mean, one of our partner up there is Northeast Iowa Telephone Company. They're doing a great job. We do have that one issue at Alameda County, but we'll keep working that. So,
are these greenfield sites?
What's that?
Are these all new greenfield sites?
I don't know the answer to that, Tom, but I'll get it for you. Again, I'm not the network guy, so I'm pinch hitting today, but if you have any questions, get them to me, and I'll get them answered. Anything else?
I've got one quick question. For these 72 sites, what roughly is a percentage of Iowa that those 72 sites cover? Just real rough.
I don't know, but I'll get the answer for you. I don't have that in front of me, so.
Because that helps us put it in perspective about, how your footprint is growing.
Yep. I'll get the answer. I'll get the answer to you for that.
Maybe just as a rough, I wouldn't take this as written in stone at all, but you think about your statewide system. How many sites is that?
90.
90. Cellular systems in a state are generally over 1,000. So there's a pretty significant difference there. And in the cellular world, much of the amount of sites is done not necessarily for coverage area, but for capacity, right? So we're all using a lot of spectrum, so that's why there's usually a lot more sites, meaning that you're adding capacity to areas versus just a geographic area of coverage. But it's pretty significant.
So to Tim's point, there could already be coverage there. We're just adding capacity, but that's not going to be the case at every, like my in-laws example, there was no coverage there. So now we have coverage there. So, okay. Anything else? Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Lundstedt.
Good morning, Chair Lampy and the board. Just a couple of quick things.
First, a thank you to Swick Myers and 911 Program Manager DeRushi for your help. We were completing a review of the state, local, tribal, territorial governance guide that is used as a best practice model, and they provided a lot of effort to help us get the Iowa update in. Iowa was cited as one of the examples of best practices for governance, so appreciate their help. We're currently working on the OEC Technical Assistance Guide release for FY19. Told you last month that we were analyzing the results from the SAFECOM nationwide survey that concluded in early March. One of the key findings was that there is a significant gap in cybersecurity awareness and preparedness at the PSAP level. So you can expect to see some outreach and offerings in that specific area. Although we recognize that most of us understand the importance of things such as antivirus and firewalls, in a PSAP or a critical infrastructure environment, preparedness and avoidance is a much more significant task. So we will look forward to coming up with some suggested solutions, and we'll work with the SWCC to identify what is most appropriate. We're currently ramping up towards a revision of the National Emergency Communications Plan. As Swick Myers mentioned, they're doing weekly calls on that. The NECP, which goes up to the DHS Secretary for approval, we hope to have something moving that direction this fall. That is our guiding document with SAFECOM's input that identifies where the gaps and needs are nationwide in emergency preparedness. So look forward to bringing that to fruition late this year. A couple of meeting announcements that I think you may find of interest. In addition to the topics that Chair Pavlik mentioned, there is a Regional Emergency Communications Coordination Working Group, the RECWIG, that will be meeting in Davenport 5 through 7 September, Wednesday through Friday. The focus of this RECWIG will be a plenary or joint meeting between FEMA Region 7 and FEMA Region 5 states, and we're going to focus on the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, EMAC, and more importantly, on communications assets under EMAC and what constitutes a mission-ready package. In other words, it's fairly common to have type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4 incidents and the assets that support them. But let's try to get a little better handle on what a typing would be for communications assets. One of the lessons learned from last year with the hurricanes is when states are asking for communication support from another state, a type 3 incident management package or an MRP might be 40 or 50 portable radios and a cache. What does that mean to you as a communications person? Probably first thing you're asking is what band, what capability, who deploys it, are they programmable, will they work in my deployment? Well, unfortunately, emergency management is looking at it, do you have a type so we can place an order between states? So the RECWIG is going to focus on that with a 3-hour workshop on Friday. And leading into the RECWIG, OEC is going to host a webinar to understand what is a mission-ready package. That will be on Monday, August 27th at 10 a.m. It's a 1-hour webinar just for an awareness of what is an MRP. And we've circulated the information to Swick Myers and this morning to Blake to share with the community if you're interested. We look forward to continuing to support Iowa with training specific to COMLs, COMTs, Incident Tactical Dispatch, and the ICS 300 courses. We also are studying end of year, if you will, last minute requests, and we'll be working with Chris on that to identify additional opportunities. So I believe that's all I have for you this morning. One quick comment. I'm wearing my Smokey the Bear shirt. I read the National Wildfire Strategic Picture this morning. 80% of our Type 1 and Type 2 teams are committed right now, along with the majority of the National Incident Cache supporting fires in the western United States. So be prepared and do your part. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to Standards Working Group.
Good morning. Standards continues to steadily move through our list. We are meeting every 3 weeks and have gotten through all of the high and medium priority from our list. We're even getting to the point where, as we look at surrounding states and what policies they have done, we're getting to a point where our technology has moved forward and they're not applying. So that means we're getting down to the last kind of the end of what we originally started with. Now, there's also new standards that come up, and we're reviewing those as well. There's 5, I believe, on the agenda today, so we steadily work through those, and we'll be meeting again in 2 weeks to go over about 9 or 10 more. So Chris might have anything more to add to that, but that's basically where we're at.
Big lift. You're doing a great job.
Okay, well, we had a really great attendance last round and got through a lot, so many. Thank you.
Okay, we have no old business. Let's move on to new business. We'll go right back to Chair Buffington if you're still on the phone for your user approval.
Yep, I'm still here. The user group committee has reviewed the 4 applications before you: Air Methods, which is an air ambulance service, Iowa Department of Public Health, Iowa Department of Public Safety, and Madison County. With the exception of Iowa DPS, the 3 other applications are for level 2, and obviously the Iowa Department of Public Safety is a level 4. User group committee has reviewed and approved all of those applications, and I would make a motion to approve all 4 applications unless we need to remove one due to conflict.
I do have a motion on the table for approval for the 4 listed Air Methods. Iowa Department of Public Safety is a level 2. Iowa Department of Public Health level 2. Public Safety level 4. Madison County level 2, and Air Methods was level 2. Do I have a second?
Ness.
David Ness. Any further discussion? So we'll call a roll call on this.
Andy Buffington,
Aye.
Larry Smith,
Aye.
Ellen Hagan,
Aye.
Rob Rotter,
Aye.
Mike Casper,
Aye.
Tom Lampy,
Abstain.
Carol Lynn Smith,
Aye.
David Ness,
Aye.
Denise Pavlik,
Aye.
Marty Smith,
Abstain.
Mike Harvey,
Aye.
Jeff Swearingen,
Aye.
Patrick Updike.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Move on to the Isicsb standards approval. In the absence of Governance Chair Benson, I believe Dave Ness will take care of that for us.
You bet. Thanks again to the Standards Working Group. We have 5 standards that we recommend for approval. Use of statewide and regional interop talk groups for air ambulance emergency landing zones. Is 1. Number 2 is system maintenance programming and qualification. Number 3 is standards compliance process. 4, cross spectrum interoperability. 5, transport interoperability. In Chair Benson's absence, I'll make a motion to approve the 5.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor for new Isicsb standards approval by Dave Ness for 1 through 5 is listed on the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Second, Sheriff Broder. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Andy Buffington,
Aye.
Larry Smith,
Aye.
Ellen Hagan,
Aye.
Rob Rotter,
Aye.
Mike Casper,
Aye.
Tom Lampy,
Aye.
Carol Lynn Smith,
Aye.
David Ness,
Aye.
Denise Pavlik,
Aye.
Marty Smith,
Aye.
Mike Harvey,
Aye.
Patrick Updike,
Aye.
Jeff Swearingen. Passes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to follow-up letter for PSAPs. I assume, Chris, you're taking care of that one also.
Yeah. Stay up here.
Just stay up there.
So the follow-up letter to PSAPs is something to kind of inform them about the first letter that was sent out. Not everybody got that due to a clerical error with the spreadsheet that was used for the address list. This follow-up letter addresses that, then also talks about the importance of accessing the system for interoperability and some methods to do that. Included with that letter would be a survey so that as grants come available to help PSAPs and communication centers connect, that we're kind of aware of what people have, and that way we can appropriately manage the funds more effectively. It'll kind of help us know who wants to have access and a semblance of what their plans are. Within that letter, there's an online link that includes basically a jot form that writes to a database so we can track answers as well. So there's a whole lot associated with that. So, and this would go out, well, if it gets approved today, we could probably send it out immediately.
Is the letter on the website for posted so people can see the letter? Did we post it?
Sean, it was an email sent out to board members. I don't know if it's Sean shaking his head no that it was not posted on the website.
Did everybody see it? Okay. I'll take a motion if you want to, in the form of a motion, if it's okay to send that out. Okay, Marty? You have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Chris, I've got one question while you're going back. For those PSAPs that have purchased a consulate or in the process of, will there be any funds available to help offset that? Or is it just, we just draw a line in the sand say from this date forward?
There hasn't been any discussion on that. The focus of the discussion so far have been the ones that don't have it yet. And that's kind of where our focus was. Candidly, that just never came up in the conversation at this point.
Okay. We'll move on to the public comment. If somebody wants to come up to the podium, we'll open it up for you. Okay, thank you. I have a motion for adjournment. Jeff, second? Second. Patrick, we're adjourned.